Hello YouTube, this is Patrick and I am back with another edition of Heavy Therapy. As you see in the title, I got to visit Meteor Gem in person in Chicago. They put their address on the new stickers and it's been open for a few months, and Meteor Gem is a niche, hand-picked, curated extreme metal music store, mostly vinyl, but they're also getting in CDs and limited edition rare cassettes. As soon as you walk in, it's the size of a bedroom. It's inviting. There's death metal playing. Mikhail says hello to you, and so the first row is the first rack is organized by death metal. But then there's micro genres inside the subgenres. So then there's a section dedicated to technical death metal, dissonant death metal, death thrash, classic death metal albums. Then to your right, you'll see new releases. Around the corner is where all the black metal releases, black metal vinyl are. There's a smaller section of like post metal and dark wave releases. On the very back wall, you get hardcore, post-hardcore, sludgy, curated choices. There's a cassette rack. Then towards the far end wall to your right, as you're facing the main racks, there's a used and blemish section. And Mikhail was really fun to meet and talk to, and he even recommended an album that I decided to pick up, and we will get into that very soon. So yeah, let's discuss all the cool stuff I picked up in store at Meteor Gem in Chicago. Okay, first up is Desolate Shrine. They are a death metal band out of Finland. This is 8 tracks, 57 minutes of music. This release is called Deliverance from the Godless Void, out on Dark Descent. Desolate Shrine, they use a guitar pedal that is similar to HM2, though I don't think it's exactly HM2. Um, but they end up creating this almost black metal type of wall of sound. It takes a few listens to cut through the layers, but you'll really start hearing the guitar riffs. The bass lines really come through after a few listens. Uh, for fans of Grave Miasma, Corpsest, and Ataraxy, when they bring in a little bit more of that doom and atmosphere. Uh, Vocal style is mostly this deep, raspy style. Think of Grave Miasma again. This is some brooding, sinister, hypnotic, mature sounding death metal. It's a gatefold. And yeah, I said it's 8 tracks, 57 minutes of music. It's 2 LP. It comes with a 4-page booklet. As the lyrics, you can read them all quite well. The font's not too small. Whitish font on a black background works quite well. Yeah, check out Desolate Shrine, one of the best modern death metal bands, in my opinion, out on from Finland, and most of their releases are out on Dark Descent Records. Next up is a Australian death metal band. They only have one full length, and I am talking about Contaminated. And this is their album Final Man. And just look at that artwork. I can't tell if that's alien looking creature inside the astronaut uniform. I can't tell if that is supposed to be the final man or if that is the cause for a situation on this planet that produced the final man, if you know what I'm saying. This is out on Blood Harvest, which is a distro and mail order and label, I think based in Sweden. You can find their releases um, in Meteor Gem on Meteor Gem's website, but also on rottedlife.com. I've picked up Blood Harvest releases, death metal, thrash metal, black metal. Um, this came with a lyric sheet, and this font right here is great. All caps, black font on white, easily readable. Band photo, rocking out on stage. Let me try to describe this type of death metal. So, at first, it's almost this caveman type of sound. Uh, the vocals are very this deep, low, guttural, monochromatic. The vocal approach does not change throughout any of the songs. That can get a little old for some people, but this is really good. Extremely heavy, noisy, loose death metal. You can hear the fingers sliding across the frets and the strings. I like that. It's a little unhinged in that regard. Um, it has basically two speeds that is really fast or really slow Death Doom speed. Uh, the drumming style reminds me of Ascended Dead, and that this album also came out in 2017. Let me see if there's any other notes that I want to mention before moving on here. Uh, has this dark, twisted tremolo riffing style, lots of aggression and hardcore energy. I even wrote that it's for fans of Antichrist Siege Machine. If Antichrist Siege Machine played incantation worship, that's what I heard. That's what I thought of when trying to think of a description for this band. So check out Contaminated and their album Final Man. I picked up this cool purple variant here. I don't have too many purple variants, so I chose purple. They also have blue and I think black. Okay, next up is two releases from this Denver, Colorado based dense dark death metal band Noctambulist. This is Atmospheres of Desolation, also out on Blood Harvest 2019. It comes with a obi strip and it comes with not the lyrics but a inner with the cool logo. And boy, this is dissonant ulcerate worship at its finest. Ulcerate is one of my favorite death metal bands, and that is a great band to try to be inspired by if you can pull it off. Noctambulist pulls it off. This is I also think of that first Gore Guts album. This is six tracks, 27 minutes of music, extremely heavy, fast moving, unrelenting, dense death metal. And that is their 2019 debut album. This is a black vinyl out of 500. And then I also picked up their 2021 album, The Barren Form. This was actually out on Willow Tip Records. This is six tracks, but it's 44 minutes of music, so a bit longer songs. Um, they are coming into their own here. They definitely still sound like they're, deeply inspired by Ulcerate, but a little bit more of their voice comes through, a little bit more of the of a different guitar tone, um, a little bit more variety in the vocal approach. But yeah, dense, heavy, Ulcerate style death metal based in Colorado. Um, this is the Barren Form, and it also came with a inner sheet with pretty readable lyrics. if you're a lyric person. Band photo on the other side. Okay, so next up is my recommendation. So Mikhail and I were discussing the stack of records that I was putting on the counter, and he said, "Wow, we have similar taste." And I was like, "Well, yeah. Look at your store. This is a curated store, right, based on your musical taste." But it was really cool to talk to Mikhail, and I asked him to recommend me an album based on my selections. And he actually he recommended Feculent, which I already owned on CD, but that was really cool because that shows that he was spot on my taste. So I said, yeah, I own that Feculent EP on CD. Um, really cool choice. But then he picked out three other albums, and I said, what is your number one choice out of these three that I have to pick up? And he recommended this Autocrater album. This is called Persecution. They're a French death metal band. This is out on crusaderproductions.com. I've actually never heard of that label. This is, boy, this is also right. He was spot on. This is definitely my style of death metal. I also, once again, think of Ulcerate. But really, they're their own beast. Wall of sound, but amazing riffs, amazing atmosphere. The melodies, the riffs shine through after multiple listens. I really like the vocal approach. Low, but I wouldn't call them like guttural, but very low. Also monochromatic, but they work very well with the just the unrelenting music that they are trying to create. Um, it's a massive sounding record. The guitar work is quite impressive. Suffocating atmosphere. Track 5 has this forward marching drums that push the song forward. Track 5 is called Caesar Nerva Trianus. And the vocalist just shouts, Hail, Caesar, Hail, Tritonus. And the music itself sounds like a fight scene. The drums sound like they're sort of marching towards the fight, and the guitars end up sounding like the fighting itself. There's also you can hear a clip of sort of a battle happening, so that helps create that feeling. Whole inner sheet with the cover art. Um, ends up being basically a concept album around Caesar and around autocracy and dictatorship. And boy, that's what it sounds like, a really heavy, crushing atmosphere, an autocratic regime. You have no choice. You have no say in the matter. You're going to get pummeled. That's autocrator persecution. And I'm glad that Mikhail recommended that for me because it's awesome. There's one beef I have, and it's only because I love the album so much that I'm even going to mention it. The last track is 5 minutes of spoken word over, there's a little bit of music building up, but it never goes anywhere. It's 5 minutes, which really makes the album 5 tracks, 29 minutes of music. And I wanted a bit more of that suffocation. I wanted a bit more of that, of the music that Auto Creator is good at creating. Uh, it's my one gripe. Otherwise, it's a flawless choice. I have listened to their other albums. They have 4 albums. They all sound very similar, very good. I think you could tell he was not quite sure on the vocal approach yet until this final album, I would say, this latest album. Really great, heavy, dense death metal out of France. Auto Creator, Persecution. Next up is a um, band out of Massachusetts. I think that might be my first Massachusetts pickup. This is Anthropophagus or Anthropophagus. This is Death Fugue out last year, and Night Rhythms, 134 copies on black. That's the version I have. 8 tracks, 34 minutes of music. This is more straightforward, classic sounding death metal. They sound like Carcass. They sound like Death. They also If you're a fan of Demiser, Black and Thrash, you might like this, even though it's death metal. But I would think Black and Thrash fans might enjoy this. It's not that suffocating type of death metal. It's straightforward yet a bit technical, very well produced, but not overproduced. Great sounding death metal. Um, the vocal approach, I think of Demiser, I think of that band Night, which I think is spelled Nite. Very cool inner sheet here. Look at that artwork, just amazing. Cool lyrics here. And anybody watching this who wants more detail on the artwork or the band members, their other releases, and you're new to the metal scene, you're new to collecting, you're new to watching YouTube videos, go to metalarchives.com. It's the encyclopedia. It's a great resource. I don't know any other genre of music that has such a resource. I wouldn't be surprised if they all do at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if hip hop does, especially. But for metal, go to metalarchives.com. And yeah, amazing, amazing resource. Next up is a band out of Turkey. And I am talking about Diabolizer and Chalcedonian Death. This came out last year as well. This is on Misako Un Ojo Records. 8 tracks, 46 minutes of music. This is Morbid Angel speed and technicality, but it has that immolation grooves, immolation heaviness and dissonance, dark finished melodies I also hear. Great guitar work by Mustafa. He's also the guitar player in Hyperdontia. Very groove laden. Uh, for fans of Phrenolith as well, Desolate Shrine, who I also mentioned and showed on here today. What's great about this is they have these great galloping, groovy, heavy riffs, but then they transition into every time they transition out of these grooves, which you don't necessarily want to end, so they're great. You don't want the grooves to end, but it's okay because they transition into either a great lead, a great tremolo part, or an awesome solo break or a bridge. Every song has an amazing solo or a lead. Mustafa apparently is a guitar player to watch here in this scene, Hyperdantia, and here in Diabolizer. Yeah, Chalcedonian Death, a gem from 2021. Check out Diabolizer. They also have a lyric sheet, a little bit harder to read, but here it is. They're there for your pleasure. So, next up is one of my favorite modern death metal bands. I love all of their albums. I finally got a hold of their debut LP, Primordial Malignity, out on Blood Harvest. Two Motor from Toronto. This is 8 tracks, 32 minutes of music. Speaking of Morbid Angel, the guitar playing sounds like the Covenant era Morbid Angel. But check out the rhythms on this album. Uh, very dynamic, they switch a lot in the songs, but they flow well. Sounds like it'd be really hard to put together and play, and that's what I appreciate about Two Mold. Version that I picked up comes with inner sleeve with lyrics, nice white font. I'm sorry, black font on white background. Has this image on the other side, very abstract. And the variant that I picked up is called Highlighter Yellow. I don't know, 250 copies. It's actually kind of hard to see on the camera, it looks like. It looks much cooler in person. But yeah, this very highlighter yellow. It's very cool. Next up is another one of my favorite modern death metal bands. Killer artwork, killer music. This is Undergang. This is their second album called Tildaden Askiller, and this came out in 2012 on Extreme Music. Undergang is from Denmark, 8 tracks, 47 minutes and 30 seconds of music. Undergang play autopsy inspired death metal. You hear some incantation in the vocals. Uh, I believe the guitar player and the vocalist David does the artwork, and I really appreciate their artwork style. It's always very gross and macabre, but sort of, a lot of 90s death metal and even some modern death metal. The cover images can be a bit much. They can be hyper masculine. That's funny to complain about with this kind of music, right? But and I'm not complaining. I'm just stating that I kind of like that Undergang flips a lot of their imagery. This looks more like a little girl getting revenge, as opposed to a man chopping up a woman. You know what I mean? So I appreciate Undergang's aesthetic, but they're some of my favorite riff writers of modern death metal. Catchy, groovy, extremely heavy and dense. This is one of the heaviest bands out here. Undergang, uh, yeah, I was happy to pick up their second album. And finally, I have a black metal release, and this is Antiinferno with Antediluvian Dreamscapes. This is a black metal release from 2022. Vinyl version is on Vendetta Records. Album cover looks a bit pixelated. I don't know if that is because of Vendetta Records and how they print stuff, or if that's the artwork in general, but it's actually better to look at from afar. Up close, you can see what I'm talking about. I like the person on there. It's just kind of straightforward, atmospheric, melodic black metal, uh, catchy riffs for black metal. The sound, it gives you this nostalgic, um, whimsical, dark, sorrowful feeling. Good riffs, good atmosphere. I like the vocal approach. Nothing too abrasive. You can put it on in the background. At least if you're people like us, you can put it on in the background. But yeah, one of my favorites of this year so far. It'll certainly be in my top 40 albums of the year. How high up, I don't know, but right now I would rank it around an 8.5 or so out of 10. Let's see. What more details about this album? There's the back artwork. 7 tracks, 42 minutes of music. They are from the United Kingdom. There's 500 copies of the black vinyl. Two-piece band, which is always cool. Lyrics on this side, and that'll do it. Uh, I always appreciate interaction, comments. I really love discussing extreme music. So please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Uh, did you check out any of these bands? Did you like any of them? Do you own any of them? Who else should I check out based on what you saw here? And yeah, don't forget, check out Meteor Gem. It's run by a fan just like us. They're great guys. There's an interview you can find in one of the Chicago papers about Meteor Gem, and Mikhail says, I'm opening a shop for my friends. And he did. And it's really cool to see. Check out Meteor Gem. Thanks for watching. Bye.